Colts week. Colts week. CJ Stroud officially back tomorrow. Let's go through the history. I think y'all will enjoy this. A history of Shane Steichen and DeMeco, plus the good and bad heading into Colts week. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the post.
It is Colts week. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who's starting to get off. If you haven't gone to the grocery store yet, then I got to tell you, it's a madhouse. Went today, a little bit crazy, but you know what? It's a crazy week because the Texans got a crazy opportunity in front of them. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. I do have picks lined up, 3 higher lowers lined up that I'll give you at the end of the show. If you want to indulge in the greatness that is Sleeper, the best scoring app, the best sports app, the best DFS daily fantasy app, like many listeners have of this program and SNL. Very great offer right now. $20 entry, no deposit needed. A lot of people have taken me up on this, little hesitant, no deposit needed. And if you want to sprinkle some more on that, you get a 100% match up to $100 using that promo code Locker. This is going to be an interesting matchup this week. This is DeMeco's biggest ever, and this is not hyperbole. This is just reality. And we will go through the history of DeMeco and Steichen in a second. Before I do that, though. Sound like Eli Porter, don't I? No, it's 50 Tyson. Dang it.
Race car.
Had I mixed up Eli Porter and 50 Tyson, 2 legends on the internet. But before I do it, though, to quote 50 Tyson, we have a request on the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Mark Sanchez, hopefully not the one. Well, it'd be cool if he was. The one that got caught getting in trouble in Indy. He says, can we get a high-grade drop to start the show?
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
There you go, my friend. There you go. But this is the biggest test that DeMeco Ryans has faced in the AFC South. This is the best team. Quite frankly, this hasn't been a good division. If you go through the opponents that DeMeco has faced in his first 2+ years in this division, haven't been great. This is as strong as the division has been. Now, all 3 of the teams that are competing and in the playoff picture right now, they have flaws. Jacksonville has a quarterback who can't get out of his own way. The Titans are dog-butted. They are the worst organization in sports, probably. They got easily the worst owner, the stankiest for sure, Amy Adams Stank. They got that. The Colts, they have Daniel Jones still. And they've, quite frankly, played about as good as they possibly can. And a lot of people think the ceiling is limited. I understand. I think they deserve credit for being where they're currently at. But you look at the past, Gardner Minshew was in the Texans' way of winning a division. Trevor Lawrence did what he's been known to do. He wet the bed. Mike Vrabel was on his way out of Tennessee. Last year, the Colts tried to roll out the ghost of Joe Flacco. They had Anthony Richardson. The Titans, worst team in the league. And the Jags, disastrous last year. Absolute disaster. Ended up hiring a new coach. Now it appears that you have 2 functioning coaches in the AFC South. We don't know what the Titans are going to do, but this Colts team, who is near the top of the AFC standings, they control their own destiny. And the Texans, who've gotten the best of the Colts 3 out of 4 times that DeMeco Ryans has faced off against them. We'll go through that in a sec. The Colts come to town. The Texans go to Indianapolis as a 4-point underdog. And if you want to know how significant this game is, Texans Cap retweeted this. I'll give the guy his credit. But if you look at these percentages, and let me explain what this is. So playoff leverage, the left side right there you see with the Texans, the left side is the percentage that you get into the playoffs with a loss. And the right side right there is the percentage that you get in with a win. So we talked about the multiple paths yesterday that the Texans could possess to the division or the wild card, on top of perhaps some other things going their way. If the Texans lose this game, the playoff percentage goes down to 26%. You can see that from Mr. Case B right there. Let me cough real quick.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
You look at the right side right here, 63%. So your playoff odds go up to 63% with a relatively easy schedule. And we've said 10 to get a chance to get in. That's what we've said. That's from Mr. Case B. So that tells you how significant this game is. It's not hyperbole to talk about just how major this game really is for the Texans. And it's a swing of 40% when it comes to getting into the playoffs if they win this game. You can't minimize that. That's as big as it gets. You can't really minimize Colts week. If you're covering or following the Texans, it's big. And this is as big as it's been in a long time. By far, the biggest matchup as head coaches that DeMeco Ryans and Shane Steichen have endured. And we'll get into that history in a sec. First, let's go back to the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Evan says, is CJ back this week? Yeah, he's back. They'll officially announce it tomorrow. He's got to go through the protocol. He's got to go through one more practice. Unless there's like some sort of injury, CJ's back. The coaches can't come out and say it. I talked about this yesterday. It's kind of awkward in the protocol. Coaches can't come out and say he's going to be back when he's still in the protocol. It's a strict process. It's different for different players. It's obviously something that was pretty sensitive to the NFL. If we go back and remember all the concussion talk, tell the truth, that bad, crappy Will Smith movie. But yeah, he's going to be back. CJ Stroud is going to be back. We should get the official word tomorrow. And practice is actually later. It's actually at 12:45 tomorrow. So we got a little bit of a later practice.
We in here talking about practice.
And we should hear from a lot of guys. So it'll be some good content heading into Thanksgiving. They are off on Thanksgiving. Then we will be covering a practice on Friday. So yeah, but CJ, yes, he will go. And that's a foregone conclusion. And we will see how he looks. It didn't look awesome before he got hurt, but it's can't be worse than what was going on with Mills on the back end, especially the most recent half of football that we observed. Timothy on the chat says, calling it right now, Titans beating the Jags, lost to us by 3, lost to Seahawks by a possession. They figuring it out over there. Hey, that would be a big favor for the Texans, because that's the other thing that is kind of not really being talked about a ton, is just how ridiculous and how outrageous the Jags schedule is, right? I mean, it is an easy walk for the Jags. They got it laid out very nicely for themselves. And that's going to be something that the Texans are going to have to deal with, especially if they don't take care of business against the Colts in more ways than one, in the wild card and in the division. The Jags it felt like that Cardinals game was the real opportunity for the Texans, and then the tiebreaker would take care of itself. I had some people ask me, well, who has the tiebreaker? Man, there's so much season left that who has the tiebreaker? It's so to be determined. But here's the worst thing about the Jags. If you're looking at them getting into the playoffs versus the Texans, the worst thing is 3 of their remaining games, 3 of their 6, they got the Titans twice. They haven't played the Titans yet. And then they got the Jets. I mean, you want to talk about a perfect layout of a schedule on the back end. The Titans twice, and then the Jets. That is a hell of a layout, and that'll concern you. There's no doubt about that. That'll definitely concern you if you're worried about that. One thing I don't worry about is my turf. Shout out to Texans Turf, Dan the man. It's stressful shopping for turf, but there's nothing more satisfying than going in that backyard knowing there's no mud, there's no insects. The dog, the baby, they can play, they can have fun. When it rains, it drains. It's easy to clean up. It's way easier than grass to clean up. The value of your house goes up. Neighbors are jealous, and it's a great thing. The only bad thing about it is shopping for it, because there's a bunch of slime balls who run turf companies. They're clout chasers. They act like they have jobs that they don't. And quite frankly, it leads a lot of people to not even do it. But I shopped for you. My sixth, seventh, I lost count guy that I came across was Dan from Texans Turf. He's the man. Dan Gray is the man. And I promise you, whether it's one of those really, really big houses in River Oaks, a full soccer field, playing surface, putting greens, he's got you covered, or just a common job like mine. And he's going to treat them all the same and get the job done. Do what I did. Do it before the holidays. It's so nice with the fire pit and everything out there, especially when you got that going, to have that Texans Turf. So go to TexansTurf.com. I promise you, it sucks to shop for turf, but there's nothing more satisfying than having it. I did the difficult part for you. Go to TexansTurf.com. They got you covered. Shout out to the great Dan the man. Back to Z-Chat before we go through the history of DeMeco and Steichen.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Evan McKinley says, also, in your opinion, how would you gauge the vibes with the team upon CJ's return? Do we ascend from this point, you think? The vibes, they're fine. There's no, like, as much as the quarterback is a polarizing position, a lot of people have had opinions about CJ Stroud since he's been in the limelight. They rock with him in that locker room. They rock with CJ Stroud in that locker room. And he has chemistry with Nico Collins. I know him and Jaden Higgins didn't get on the same page, but Jaden Higgins and him get along like they rock with CJ Stroud. So the vibes are fine. The vibes have been good the last 3 weeks because they've been winning. Davis Mills is a different type of element. I think they rallied around him. I think hopefully if CJ Stroud is able to take some things from Davis Mills, that would be great. But the vibes are fine. We'll know officially tomorrow, and they will officially announce that he is the starting quarterback. And then maybe we'll get a little bit more of a pulse of that, and we'll actually get to hear from CJ. So once we hear from CJ, we'll figure out what the vibe is. I just hope people don't treat him like he died. That's my concern. Like, he had a concussion. He's got to go play. Figure it out. Blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't have to baby him and act like he died or anything like that. He's back. He's good to go. Timothy asks, please ask CJ if the hit will affect running. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the question or not. I kind of want to know if there's anything that he learned from Mills from observing, but maybe that will come up. The hesitation of running, the sliding. I'm sure some form of that should be asked. But yeah, well, it'll definitely be, that might be like an observe type of situation where you see how he reacts to it. And then next week when he speaks after the Colts game, if he did or didn't, then you get that. But yeah, that is definitely a concern. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, there's a human element to it. He wasn't very good at sliding, which he kind of acknowledged shortly before that happened. So naturally, I don't know that you become, and there was also at times a hesitation to run. So naturally, like, does that hesitation increase after you go through what he's gone through, which, oh, by the way, happens to be the second time that he's done it in 2+ years of playing football. So I think that's definitely a talking point. I'm sure he'll get asked in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if tomorrow is that, but you never know. I'll keep it in mind for sure. But I want to know about if he learned anything from Davis Mills. But yeah, we'll definitely get that. I might me and Stutz might divide it up, and we'll figure it out, and we'll react to it tomorrow, 24 hours from now, right here in the locker room, for sure. DeMeco Ryans and Shane Steichen. So I'm going to tell you something that you may not have known. We're going to go through the history of DeMeco and Steichen. We're going to talk about why DeMeco's perhaps biggest asset in the matchup. It might be karma when it comes to these two guys. And we'll naturally discuss this matchup and the direction in which it's heading in the future. But let's start, though, with the acceptance that this is the biggest matchup that they've had as head coaches. It's not the biggest game that they've met when they were assistants. There was a much bigger one, which I'm sure DeMeco Ryans probably still loses sleep over, but there really wasn't much he could do in that case. But the history of Steichen and DeMeco heading into Sunday, it's an interesting history. Not too long ago, they were two of the top assistants in the NFL. They were the two of the three biggest names on the head coaching search of 2023. Sean Payton was the other one. We heard a lot about Sean Payton. And they've been in the same division. They've had winner go home games. They've had to overcome adversity against one another. And there's a lot of history and there's a lot of connection with those two. And it started in 2021 when Shane Steichen, those 2 years, was the OC of the Eagles. And DeMeco Ryans in those 2 years was the DC of the San Francisco 49ers. And their first meeting, DeMeco Ryans, on September 19th of 2021, he got the best of him. San Francisco topped Philly 17-11. It's kind of one of those ugly-ass games. But San Francisco ended up getting the dub, and DeMeco got the best of Shane Steichen. And immediately after those seasons, it was inevitable that both of these guys were eventually going to be head coaches in the NFL. It's one of the worst kept secrets. We all knew DeMeco was destined to be that. And it was the same for Shane Steichen. And I think their history is at both levels as assistants and head coaches. I think it boils down to the QB situation. Wise man once told me it's all about the quarterback. And there is no bigger example than the history of DeMeco and Shane Steichen. And we already talked about that first meeting, but we go to January of 2023. This was a wild week for DeMeco Ryans. Probably some highs and probably some ultimate lows. I would say if you go back to the last week of January in 2023, I bet that DeMeco Ryans probably, if you had him list the top 3 highs of his football career and the top 3 lows coaching career, I bet you one of each would appear on that list. Because on January 22nd of 2023, Jay Glazer reported that DeMeco Ryans canceled his head coaching interview with the Indianapolis Colts. And why did he do that? Because he had already interviewed with the Texans and he had decided that that was where he was going to go. So DeMeco Ryans, in that final week of January of 2023, he knew he was returning to where he made his name in the NFL, and he was going to do so as a head coach on a strong path. He was going to inherit massive draft equity, which, by the way, is one of the biggest differences, I would say, in the success he's had against Shane Steichen compared to the alternative. But he was on a high. January 22nd, when you're canceling head coaching interviews with the Colts and Cardinals because you know the job you're going to take, you got to be on a high. His wife's from Houston. He's getting to go home. He's inheriting the best salary cap and the best draft equity. So DeMeco Ryans had to have been on a high when that happened, when he canceled that interview with the Indianapolis Colts. But that high probably came down just a little bit a week later, because on January 29th, 2023, 1 week later, Shane Steichen and the Eagles defeat DeMeco in the NFC title game 31-7. Now, you see the asterisks there. That's because this was the game. When we talk about the quarterback situation, this was the game, and this is why DeMeco Ryans doesn't give a rat's ass about what Shane Steichen has had at quarterback in the NFL compared to what he's had. Because in this game, if you remember, Brock Purdy goes down in the first quarter, can't even lift his shoulder. Jimmy Garoppolo already hurt. The journeyman, Josh Johnson, he ends up coming in. He gets hurt, and they basically have to run Wildcat and play quarterback with Christian McCaffrey in the NFC title game. That had to have been one of the most stressful, most frustrating situations for anyone, because there was really nothing DeMeco's defense could have done. The offense wasn't going to do anything for him. There was nothing he could do. He was basically bringing a knife to a gunfight. And that had to be after a week after, you know what your future is. You know that everything that you've worked for is going to happen. That had to have been just an ultimate low point for DeMeco Ryans. It had to be. Like that had to have sucked so bad for DeMeco. And I bet you it has to be the most disappointing loss of his entire football career. He never really had like huge playoff moments, because we know the Texans haven't ever gotten to that level. But you get to the NFC Championship game, and then you don't even have a symbol of the most important position. That had to have been frustrating. But after that, his career in San Francisco ended, and DeMeco Ryans arrived in Houston. I'm going to tell you something that you may not have known about that hiring process when it comes to DeMeco and Steichen in a second. First, though, let's talk about Spanky's Pizza. Best pizza in the world. And SNL, myself, Cody Stutes, we've been going there twice a month all season. I got some good news for you. That is going to continue. We will be at Spanky's. By the way, today was pasta night. Had some people say they took advantage of that pasta. Spaghetti, Alfredo, lasagna, all on discount today. Yesterday was large pizza day. They got the homemade sauce. They got the homemade dough. It is the best pizza place, and it is the most affordable, awesome atmosphere that we always enjoy. We'll be there twice next month, and we'll also be heading north to a special destination, not once, but twice as well. So tune into SNL on Friday. We'll have that announcement for you. We'll also give you the Spanky's dates as well. Last time we had someone from Georgia. We had some people from Austin. We had some people from San Antonio that joined us. It's always fun. And we always have stuff special planned, and it's always fun talking about ball. So we got you, we got you covered, and we'll see you at Spanky's. Something you may not have known about DeMeco and Steichen coming up in a sec. First, let's go to the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Evan says, I understand this is a running team with us. I just feel we're an OC and O-line from going on a run. It's late here in Connecticut, and I might be babbling. Sorry, don't apologize for babbling. If you apologize to me for babbling, that is a big mistake, because that is kind of my lifestyle. That is kind of my meat and potatoes. My meat and potatoes come from my babbling. I'm quoting Mystical there. Shout out to Mystical. Can you shout out Mystical? Have we gotten past that? Oh, well, I did. But yeah, the Texans feel like, best case scenario, they feel like they're trying to get to where they were in the previous 2 years, which was not the goal when they fired Bobby Slowick. So yeah, it does feel that way. It is frustrating. You do hope that they can flip the switch.
Damn it, Bobby.
But there's trust issues with Nick Caley. So no, I don't disagree with that, but you want to get to that point to where maybe they can flip the switch and figure something out. Who knows? Nick Caley can't handle primetime. Maybe he's Mr. Playoffs. Who the hell knows? No idea. S says, are we calling you and Cody the Spank Boys? If you want to, don't know. But here's something you may not have known about the Shane Steichen, DeMeco Ryans hiring process. I have it on very good authority that Shane Steichen was actually the Texans' number 2 choice. So if DeMeco Ryans, Denver was the other team, if DeMeco decided he wanted to go to Denver, which, why would you? Russell Wilson was there. The cap situation wasn't great. They didn't have the draft equity. But if he decided he wanted to go to Denver, then Shane Steichen would have been the second choice. Have that on very strong authority. Maybe they were trying to make themselves look smart. I don't see why they would lie. They said they liked him, and they said that he was the second choice. I believe it. It's someone who would know for sure. So they hired DeMeco. Shane Steichen was the second choice. And then perhaps the most significant thing is the Texans. They have the number 2 pick, and the Colts have the number 4 pick, which means the Texans end up with CJ Stroud, and the Colts end up with, because they were going to take a quarterback no matter what, they have to choose between Josh Allen, a.k.a. Will Levis, or LaFar Jackson, a.k.a. Anthony Richardson. And they went with Anthony Richardson. Hasn't gone great. Daniel Jones has been an upgrade. Gardner Minshew might have even been better. So that's been the real difference between the success that DeMeco Ryans has had and the lack of success that Shane Steichen has had against him. Isn't that? It's all about the quarterback. Goes back to that lesson. All about the quarterback. A number 2 pick, number 4 pick. Even the offensive guy doesn't get the quarterback. The defensive guy gets the quarterback. He puts together a good defense, and the rest is kind of history. And we'll go through that history in a sec. But between that 2 and 4 pick, the Texans, they took Will Anderson. They traded up. They took Will Anderson. DeMeco Ryans. I thought this was a compromise. We talked about it leading into the draft. DeMeco Ryans had a fascination with Will Anderson. He actually brought it up the other day. Here is a little tale from former Alabama football player DeMeco Ryans about another Alabama football player who is now, like DeMeco, a Houston Texan.
I remember I wasn't even thinking about Will at this time, but I remember when Will was a rookie at Alabama, my older brother, he called me and was like, hey, man, whenever you get a chance, this guy from Alabama, you need to get him on your team. It's like, all right, I'll check him out. And then who knows, like full circle, moment like come when I had a chance to actually be in a position to draft him, like, yeah, my brother was right. He was spot on. I needed to get number 31, and I'm happy he's here with us.
Yeah, he's his guy. He's his dude. But the quarterback has been, I would probably say, the difference for DeMeco and the success that he has had against Shane Steichen. And as we go through the history of DeMeco and Steichen, be sure to like the video, subscribe, all that jazz. Be with us at Spanky's. But it started off immediately. Week 1, DeMeco versus Shane Steichen, Volume 1. And this one was interesting. And this was the one time where Shane Steichen, as head coach of the Colts, got the best of DeMeco Ryans. The date was September 17th, 2023. And 8 months after Shane Steichen beat DeMeco Ryans in that frustrating L in the NFC Championship game, he got the best of him in his debut. And this was the game where Anthony Richardson started out pretty good, but he ended up getting hurt. Gardner Minshew came in, and Gardner Minshew ended up taking him home. This was early in the season. Wasn't the debut. The debut was the Ravens. But I actually thought this was the game where CJ Stroud kind of established himself as a leader. And you looked at intangibles and stuff like that. I thought this was the game where CJ established himself a leader. He had a hurt shoulder, and he had both of his starting tackles out, and he still played. He actually lit up the stat sheet. He got beat up crazy, and they ended up losing. But after the game, CJ Stroud went up there and talked about how he was going to ride and die with his teammates. He didn't care. He didn't have the offensive line. And the Texans never looked back after that when it comes to CJ Stroud's rookie year. Next week, they go to Jacksonville as a touchdown plus favorite against the defending division champs. They beat their ass. Next week against the Steelers, they beat their ass. And CJ Stroud has one of the best rookie seasons of all time. Now, you don't feel as good about him now as you did then. You don't feel bad, but it got a little bit more difficult. But I asked CJ last year if he thought that was kind of a pivotal moment in his career where he kind of established himself as a leader. Here's what CJ had to say about it. You had the hurt shoulder, the offensive line completed. And after the game, you came up, you praised your teammates. Do you think that kind of set the tone for just being a leader and establishing yourself as a leader of this team?
I feel like it was a multitude of things, but I definitely think that week we took a step. I think last year
was last year. That stuff is done now. So I definitely do think that took a step for our standard and how we're going to run this organization. On the player coach side of things was just kind of the grit that, it wasn't pretty. We definitely, the coach got after us that day, but it definitely set a tone that we weren't gonna just shy away. We were gonna play all 4 quarters and try to play tough as possible. And it just really took time to, build trust and things like that. So, I definitely think that definitely took a step for the what we're seeing now last year.
And it definitely was last year because it didn't get much better after that. But we go back to 2023, and this is as the momentum continued, the winner go home game, week 18, 2023, aka Steichen versus DeMeco Volume 1, the most crucial matchup that they've had. Winner go home. Every game up to that point for the Texans had been a noon Sunday kick. This got flexed up to Saturday, and it was in Indianapolis. It was rowdy as hell. I know some of you may remember, some of you may just now be kind of resetting your memory, but this was a game where it was rowdy as hell, it was loud as hell, and right off the top, CJ Stroud set the tone. He had the long touchdown to Nico Collins. Jonathan Taylor was an absolute dog, and the Colts ended up having the drop pass at the end, and the Texans end up winning the division with DeMeco Ryans. You see DeMeco Ryans, how relieved he was in the hallway. This was one of the high points of the DeMeco Ryans era, and the Texans and Colts hadn't really been on the same page up to that point. When the Colts were really good early on, the Texans were meh. They couldn't get over the hump. And when the Texans got good, it was kind of meh. You sprinkle in, though, the Andrew Luck playoff game where they beat the Texans 21-7 in 2018. But this was as big as it got under the lights. Really, a couple playoff matchups, if you count this as a playoff matchup, which it pretty much was. And the Texans win that game. So that was the first 2 times, as we go through the history of DeMeco and Steichen, the first 2 times that they met, where they kind of split. Then we go to the season opener. I misspoke and said the season opener in CJ's rookie season. That was week 2. But the season opener on September 8th, 24, this one was in Indianapolis. It was back and forth. Nico Collins was still a dog. The play of this game that I remember the most was when the first play out of the 2-minute warning, it was still a 1-possession game. The Colts, it was 3rd down. The Colts were looking to get the ball back, and Kenyon Green gets a false start right off the top. I know Kenyon Green, a lot of people don't like hearing his name. I can't blame you. But Kenyon Green gets a false start, pushes the Texans back, and then CJ Stroud rolls out. He finds Nico Collins, and just a perfect dime to move the chains, and the Texans end up holding off the Colts. But that was CJ saving all butts right there, specifically Kenyon Green. So that improved DeMeco to 2-1. And then one of the big moments, and this is not a good one for Indianapolis. And this was actually like a pivotal moment in franchise history when it comes to the DeMeco Ryans and the Shane Steichen eras. And I don't know if y'all know where I'm going with this, but this was on October 27th, 2024. The Texans end up beating the Colts 23-20, but this was the Anthony Richardson tap-out game. This was where Anthony Richardson had that long run, and then he tapped out. And a lot of Colts fans, a lot of Colts media, they point to this moment as the moment when they knew that Anthony Richardson was not the guy. Now, some would say you probably should have known that a little bit sooner, but this is something that has never happened. The other day, it's crazy. We were in the media room. It was last week, and one of the Amazon camera crew was talking about that as something that they remembered when they were either here or something that happened. And that's just how pivotal that was. There's been some highs for both of these guys, but this was one of the more pivotal moments of Steichen versus DeMeco. And the Texans ended up winning. The Colts, they finally accepted. I think Richardson actually even got benched after that, but they accepted that they did not have a franchise quarterback. And that is the head coaching / assistant / hiring process history of Shane Steichen and DeMeco Ryans. Hope you enjoyed it. DeMeco, by the way, with one more regular season win than Shane Steichen, and he also has the 2 playoff games. So with all that said, the Texans have actually, the Colts, I should say, the Colts have actually done a pretty good job of doing all right with what they've been dealt. Now, I don't know how much leeway you get if you're Shane Steichen. You've had a handful of starting quarterbacks, while DeMeco has pretty much had, for the most part, outside of a few games, one quarterback you feel better about than any of them had. But I actually think Shane Steichen, despite the fact DeMeco has done a good job, I actually think Shane Steichen's done a really good job too with what he's been dealt. And it can go back to having the number 2 pick instead of number 4. What if the Colts have the number 2 instead of the number 4? And Shane Steichen inherits CJ Stroud, and DeMeco Ryans has to probably pick Will Anderson and then maybe Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. It wouldn't be great. So sometimes, as good as coaches are, as highly touted as they are, sometimes goes back to that lesson. Say it with me. Drink. Do whatever you want to do. It's all about the quarterback. That's the history of DeMeco Ryans and Shane Steichen. Let's get into the good and bad with the Texans. First, though, let's go to the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Timothy says, could you get everyone to clap when CJ comes to the podium tomorrow? Just want to encourage him that we're happy he's back. Dude, if I clapped as a media member when he comes in there, I would have to basically give back my journalism degree, cut my nuts off, and probably turn my credential in, and maybe not even do this anymore, because that's just not really my style, my MO. So the answer to that is no. I think you're probably being trite, but nah, that's not my job to do that. Justin asking crazy questions. Are you Spanky number 1 or Spanky number 2? I'm Spanky number 1. I'm Spanky number 1 for sure. Like, if we're talking me and Stutes, now Stutes eats more. So if we're like doing like number 1 in the eating, Stutes eats more. I pig out though. I pig out. It's always like probably 8 wings, a pizza, maybe even throw in some spaghetti. But I'm always the number 1 at Spanky's. That's my spot. Although Stutes goes there and watches college ball a lot too. So I would say I'm Spanky number 1 though, if I had to guess. I might be a little bit biased. Rick says, great idea, Timmy. I think you're being sarcastic. Stand up and clap when he comes in there. What is this, freaking college media? But that's funny. But yeah, I think CJ probably knows he's welcome back, as long as he stays off the internet. Internet can be crazy. Although there's a lot of straw man stuff. I'm really kind of amused, and I'm kind of annoyed. Not annoyed, like just I've done a good job of weeding out. Like, Twitter is not. It's not real. Like, it's not a symbol of stuff. Now you can follow what you need to follow and get your news and gather it and stuff, but there's way too many people that have platforms that are just taking straw man arguments and making them like into their whole existence and their whole being. It's kind of weird. Anyone who says Davis Mills, show me the people who are saying that. I said he had a good performance a few weeks ago. I don't see anyone saying that. You can find anything on the internet. I got news for you. You can go in the Twitter search bar and say Earth flat. You'll find a lot of people who say that. You can find someone who says Houston not hot. You can find anything. So I'm always amused by people who are supposed to create content, who are supposed to create topics, that their whole existence and their whole being is like acknowledging what some dumbass said. Like, oh, never listened to Stephen A. But then your whole existence, your whole tweeting is about countering what Stephen A. said. Why? It's weird. But it does seem like I'm seeing a few people that should probably know better doing that. It's really weird. Don't get it at all.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Jose asking that question. How confident are you in CJ first game back from concussion in a big game on the road? How about our defense versus JT? Defense is the equalizer. It's the superpower. Defense will give you a chance in a lot of games. The offense is graded on a curve. We've said this from the very jump. This does not have to be an elite offense. You do not have the pieces when it comes to the offensive line, the depth at running back, and really the offensive coordinator to be an elite offense. That's not realistic. They have to be okay. CJ, it will be interesting to see if there's any yips. It will be interesting to see if there's any still lack of trust in the offensive line, if there's hesitation to run. But the good news for him is he can kind of feel it out. He can also build off of what Davis Mills had, specifically the chemistry with Higgins, CJ's previous chemistry with Nico Collins, and they're finally using Woody Marks. I think as a result of CJ Stroud having the chemistry that he does with Jalen Noel, I would like to see Jalen Noel be more of a part of the offense on top of what they've already got going, because Christian Kirk is just a guy at this point. Christian Kirk is just a guy. Christian Kirk is just there. And if you don't believe me, I know someone will say, well, he had a touchdown the other day and he had a long catch. Randall Cobb did that against the Steelers in 2020. Randall Cobb was one of the most outlandish signings that the Texans made at the wide receiver position. Christian Kirk is basically Randall Cobb right now. And you might say, well, that's crazy. How could you say that? Let me show you. I put these stats out. I'll show you right here. And this is right here. Texans wide receiver production through 7 games. Randall Cobb, 30 receptions on 38 targets. Christian Kirk, 21 receptions on 37 targets. Randall Cobb, 277 yards. Christian Kirk, 198. Randall Cobb, 2 touchdowns, 9.2 yards per catch. Christian Kirk, 1 touchdown, 9.4 yards per catch. They're the same guy. Free Jalen Noel. Get him involved. Don't ignore in victory what you wouldn't ignore in defeat. Get him out there. Get Jalen Noel out there, which brings me to the good and bad for the Texans heading down the stretch. Glass half full, glass half empty. We're going to get into this tomorrow. We'll hopefully hear from CJ. We'll hear from DeMeco. We'll hear from some other guys in the Texans locker room, and we'll bring them to the locker room as well as SNL with Cody Stutz. This great minds think alike in the chat. This was one of the first things I said, and this is a very good question by you. Half full, half empty. How does CJ Stroud getting 28 days, which is what it will be when he takes the field against the Colts, what will it look like? Will it be recharge and rest, or will it be overthinking and rust? Will it be a combination of both? Sometimes stepping away and getting a recharge can help you. We know how physically demanding that football is, especially for a quarterback that gets hit as much as CJ Stroud does, although it has dropped a little bit this year. Could there be a recharge and rest, or will there be overthinking versus rust? We won't know that, quite frankly. If he struggles, it might not be because of that, but I think it will be mentioned either way as perhaps a thing, but maybe it does factor in. So that's the first thing. That's not good or bad. That's just kind of glass half full, glass half empty when it comes to CJ Stroud coming back. Here's the good news. The best, your superpowers, the faces of your superpowers for the Texans. The good is the edge and CB duos. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Stingley's been good, but it almost feels like he can even be better. He's elite. Elite players get held to different standards. Kamari Lassiter is one of the most physical corners in the league. When Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter eat, the Texans are 8-2 when they both get a sack. That's finally started to happen. As long as that's happening, as long as Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are getting after the quarterback and Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter are playing well, there might be a little bit of vulnerability in the middle, but these guys sure as hell can cancel that out. There's a reason that edge guys and cornerbacks get paid a lot. And the Texans have 2 good ones at each of those positions. So that's the good. That's actually the great. Next good thing for the Texans, the aggressiveness. There's a lot of aggressiveness on defense. The aggressiveness with the Texans is one of their strengths, and it seems to have gotten the best of Josh Allen, not just once and twice. Once is what's going to happen next time? You see it twice, it seems like they're kind of in the guy's head. I don't know about y'all, but Daniel Jones can't hold Josh Allen's jock. That's what I think. I would think that y'all think that too. Now, they have a better OC. They have a better defense. But it does feel like if DeMeco Ryans can make Josh Allen look the way that he has, that potentially that aggressive defense may be able to make Daniel Jones look even worse. And here's the beauty of it. This is the best thing about it. They're starting to blitz a little bit. Like they're starting to blitz corners. That wasn't really something that they typically did, but they're starting to blitz corners. And it's paid off, it seems like, more times than not. And you sprinkle in Jalen Petrie, maybe there's a little bit more blitz, but I think the Texans' aggressiveness on defense, while they have shown some vulnerability, it can cancel it out. And let's talk about that vulnerability, and let's use the Van Gundy observation, which is, as I always say, don't ignore in victory what you would not ignore in defeat. The middle of the defense is vulnerable. You're on your third safety with Jalen Reed. I like Jalen Reed, but there's going to be struggles for rookie safeties, rookie corners, really most rookies. We haven't seen it yet. So Jalen Reed, he's going to be going against his buddy who he was with for a few years at Penn State, Tyler Warren. What is that going to look like? And with this tight end stretch that the Texans have in front of them, starting with Tyler Warren, are the linebackers going to be able to cover? It's looked good so far. This is going to be the biggest challenge for that. So as good as the defense is, the weakness, the vulnerability that we see on display every once in a while, that we've seen context clues of, even in victory, it's going to be challenged. So that is kind of the bad. The other bad is old Nick. My goodness, Nick. Nick Caley's feel of the game. Whether it's the end of the half, whether it's knowing what to do, whether it's not being ready, Nick Caley's feel of the game is tough. It's tough to watch Nick Caley a lot of the times. Abandoning QB sneaks on the goal line. Now, fortunately for him, this one isn't prime time because we know he gets scared when the lights are on or off, however you want to look at it. They're bright, but the lights, like I think Nick Caley, he doesn't like when it's dark outside. He probably goes to sleep with a nightlight, if we're being honest. Nick Caley probably has a nightlight when he goes to sleep. But when the lights are bright and it's dark outside, Nick Caley he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. It's been proven. He disappears. He disappears whenever the lights are bright. And even when they're not, just not a real good feel for the game. Good news is we've seen teams. We go back to that 2023 DeMeco Ryans division title. The Jags kind of helped out. We focused on the Texans Colts. The Jags made that a win or go home game because they wet the bed. And it was about this time when they started wetting the bed. Maybe Nick Caley can do the opposite. Maybe Nick Caley becomes this genius, this guru down the stretch. I don't know how I'm even saying that with a straight face, but maybe that happens. But right now, it feels like you're going to have to overcome Nick Caley. Fortunately, you have your quarterback back, and you do have your superpower, but that's the bad. Everybody knows this. DeMeco Ryans called it out. The Nick Caley thing, that is one of the worst things about this football team has been offense. That's why they made the decision they did last year. And quite frankly, Nick Caley hasn't been much better. Matter of fact, you make a strong case that he's been worse. Nobody's going to say he's better. But the case is, the real strong case is that he's been pretty bad. Get to some more of these in a sec. First, though, let's shout out the greatness that is TDECU. Love me some TDECU. Fresh new Texans debit card, fresh logo, 15% off the team shop just in time for the holidays. You can get someone some gear, throw that debit card on top. If you don't want the Texans debit card, get the U of H debit card, get the Buc-ee's debit card. I think you can save on gas. There's all types of stuff. TDCU is the best. There's a reason that they work with CJ Stroud. There's a reason that they work with the Cougs and their stadium. There's a reason they work with SNL. Myself, Cody Stoots, which you can hear Monday through Friday at 4:00. Shout out to TDCU. Go to tdcu.org/Texans. Get that fresh new Texans debit card. Membership required, insured by NCUA. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, all that. Join us on the road at Spanky's. Big announcement coming on Friday. Practice tomorrow. If you didn't know, we're going through the good and bad for the Texans heading down the stretch. The bad, Frank Ross, special team since the mansplain. Ever since Frank Ross couldn't even shape his lips to say, which returner he did or didn't go with. I hate bringing this up. It's a fact, though. He went from number 2 in DVOA to number 18. You can't win like that. Ever since this, I hate bringing it up. I wish this weren't the case.
How did you arrive at the decision to go with Berrios at punt return instead of Knoll?
I don't think there's a decision to go with anybody. I think
ever since then, man, from 2 to 18, I hate saying it. I wish this wasn't the case. And this kind of goes back with the Fairbairn thing. The poor execution, not kicking the ball out of bounds with Fairbairn. You can connect that. Maybe that has more to do with it. Ever since then, the special teams have been shell-shocked. Ever since they did the unforgivable in more ways than one. I don't know which is more unforgivable, the poor execution or the mansplaining. But ever since then, Frank Ross's special teams have been awful. They got to get better. They got to get better. That's a must. That's a must. Wouldn't it be a damn shame if we talk about the defense, we talk about the offense? Wouldn't it be a damn shame? Let's say that Nick Caley just does his thing. Nick Caley's just cooking. Man, CJ and Nick Caley, they look like they're on the same page. Say it again. Nick. Everybody's feeling it. It looks great. One more time. Nick Caley's doing great. It's awesome. It's phenomenal. Oh, my gosh, the defense is still doing their thing. Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, they're still eating at the same time. You got Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter. Boom, they're doing their thing. My gosh, this is a perfect mesh of football. And then boom, special teams cost you a game, and they cost you a chance to get in the playoffs. How much would that suck? I've had to talk about Nick Caley all year, and then as soon as Nick Caley gets it going and the defense does what they do, Frank Ross's special teams cost you the season. They tried twice. The Jags game, they spotted the Jags, double-digit points. Texans didn't go down 17-0 because of their offense or defense. They went down because of special teams. You had the fumble, and they even made the defense because of their special teams hold them to 3 twice, not once, but twice. Then they allow a punt return. Then against the Bills, cruise control. Everything's going awesome. Bada bing, bada boom, one possession game. Wouldn't that be just an effing shame if Nick Caley figures it out and then Frank Ross's special teams fall apart and cost you the season? That would suck. That would be a damn shame. They've been so good recently. That is a nightmare right there. Some of y'all aren't going to be able to sleep because I put that out there.
You ain't never hate.
swarm.
Timothy says, Diddy party at Spanky's if we win the division. It ain't got to be a Diddy party. No Diddy. No Diddy for me. But there will definitely be a party at Spanky's if they win the division. There'll be a party at Spanky's if they don't. There'll be a party at Spanky's if they lose the next 2. There's going to be 2 parties at Spanky's next month if you haven't heard. We're in this together. People coming through whether they're winning or not. It's always a fun time at Spanky's, whether they're winning or not, all the way up to draft season. But no Diddy here. No Diddy here. You can do your thing. Keep that baby oil away from me. The good, Woody Marks. Woody Marks is RB1. Woody Marks is RB1. Finally, he's RB1. Now, in a perfect world, I would like him to be RB2. They don't have that kind of depth at running back right now. So that's the good news. I got to give this bad news, though, when it comes to Woody Marks. His superpower is neglected. And this goes back to, you guessed it, that guy. You drafted the guy because he could catch the ball. You drafted the guy because he could catch the ball. I remember his first college coach, Mike Leach, rest in peace. He used to talk about how the pass game can be an extension of the run game. That's how he used Woody Marks. It's his superpower. Even if he is RB1, why are you neglecting his superpower? Woody Marks had 1 target last game. That's unacceptable for someone that talented, especially when you don't run the ball very well. Woody Marks is not being used at all for what you drafted him for and for what his superpower is. And I hope that Nick Caley isn't one of those guys who the running back has to be RB2 or RB3 for you to use him in the pass game. The guy is one of the most accomplished receivers in recent college football history. Get him the damn ball in the pass game. It's crazy. Like, I honestly think that if Nick Caley were the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, I think if Nick Caley were that guy, he probably wouldn't even throw the ball to Gibbs. Woody Marks has 17 targets this year. 17 targets for one of the most accomplished receiving running backs in recent college football history. 17 targets. 17 targets in 11 games. That's a fucking disgrace. That is embarrassing, and that is a fucking disgrace. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's embarrassing. Especially when you're trying to find ways to move the ball. We're focused on all this running and stuff. But before the Jags game, we put a video out there where we talked about how they needed to feed Nico Collins more. Woody Marks, 17 and 11 is a joke. He wasn't drafted to run between the tackles. He's underrated. He's got an underrated skill when it comes to doing that. But, I mean, my God, throw him the ball. It's embarrassing. Now, if you were just humming and everything was going great, cool. But don't abandon superpowers on this offense. It's ridiculous. And it's something that he needs to do. It's a joke. It's a joke. The only time he threw him the ball against the Bills was when he wasn't ready to go. When the Texans had the quick turnover and he had to shuffle his notes and then run out there, call a run play up the middle, and then throw it backwards 7 yards to him behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, use the superpower, brother. I shouldn't have to tell an NFL offensive coordinator this. This is the same crap that we talked about last year with Bobby Slowick. When I asked Bobby Slowick about getting Mixon involved in the pass game, and Bobby Slowick came out and said, "Oh yeah, we probably should do that." Dude, it was January. It's damn near December. This is deja vu all over again. This is deja vu all over again with abandoning superpowers. And Joe Mixon is a guy that is known for running between the tackles. So I can understand it. He was an underrated receiver. But this is even worse. And this is and we killed Bobby Slowick for doing incompetent things like this. And they moved on from Bobby Slowick for doing incompetent things like this. They moved on from him despite winning the division, which is what they're trying to do now. That's their goal.
Damn it, Bobby.
I get that there's limitations, but what kind of mofos would we be to cover this team and completely hammer, rightfully so, Bobby Slowick for neglecting Joe Mixon as a passing threat, and now the guy that you replaced is doing the same damn thing. Let's just go back. Listen to Bobby Slowick when I asked him. I flat out asked him about the lack of use of Joe Mixon in the pass game. And this was based on what we saw in camp. Listen to this. We killed this. The guy ended up getting fired for this.
What do you think of Mixon's ability as a receiver? Do you think there's been more opportunity to maybe get him involved in that area a little bit more?
Yeah, I think he's a really good receiver, actually. I know, we worked it a lot in camp. Like I'm sure all you guys saw that. We did a good amount of it in camp. We did some of it early in the year. And I think as the year has gone, probably have gotten away from that a little bit, wanted to make sure he was fresh for some of his carries, but without a question, that's something that's on my mind and been on my mind. Like, how can we make sure we make use of a guy that we think is an excellent player?
Okay. And we absolutely killed Bobby Slowick for that. Rightfully so. Not unfair at all. What is Nick Caley doing? What's his excuse? Let's just bring up the numbers. Look at these stats from Woody Marks in college. We'll get out of college. Well, first we might as well stay in the pros. Let's pull these up right here. Look at this. Look at what we got here. Receiving. 17 catches for Woody Marks. 26 targets. I said 17. 17 catches and 26 targets in 11 games is what you have. Not much better. 26 targets, 17 catches for Woody Marks. This is an offense who can't run the ball, who needs to do things to get creative. They drafted this guy for this. Let's go to college stats for Woody Marks. That's rushing, okay. And not really known for running between the tackles, right? Not really. 1,000-yard season in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. 1,000-yard season. How about the receiving? 60 catches, 83 catches, 48 catches, 23 catches, 47 catches while he's running for 1,000 yards. Why is this guy not a part of the pass game? Nick Caley's got to figure that out. That's ridiculous. This is the same stuff that happened last year with Bobby Slowick. It's deja vu all over again, and this is even more unforgivable. Get it together, Nick Caley. This should not be hard for you to understand. What was the first thing they talked about when they drafted Woody Marks? He's a good receiver. 26 targets in 11 games for a bad offense? Get it together, man. Let's get positive. Good. Jaden Higgins' recent breakout. I think CJ Stroud can build off of this. I think this is one thing, observing Davis Mills, I think CJ Stroud can build off of. CJ Stroud knows how to get chemistry going with guys. He gave him a chance, 50-50 ball against the Rams. It got intercepted. I think CJ can figure this out. So Higgins' recent breakout, I think that's good. I think CJ can build off of that. It is TBD, though. I will put this in there. It is TBD if Stroud can get on the same page with Higgins. TBD, to say the very least. Other good with CJ, and a lot of people want Jalen Noel freed. He has great chemistry. Might not have the greatest chemistry with Higgins, but he has excellent chemistry with Jalen Noel. He's throwing some really pretty balls against our two Jalen Noel. So maybe we see that pick up, and that adds another element. So we'll see how the whole thing goes. That's the good, the bad. Back to the chat. Timothy again says you should definitely tell him get Mark some screens. I'm not going to tell him shit. I might ask about it. I'm not going to tell him shit. He can do what he's got to do. But it's pathetic that Woody Marks, a guy, like, do you respect him as a receiver or not? That's my question tomorrow. I'm not going to tell him what to do. I shouldn't have to tell you to take one of the most productive receiving running backs in recent college history that you probably drafted because he had that skill set. I shouldn't tell you to probably get him involved in the pass game. That should not, to quote Bill O'Brien, damn, the offense is so bad that we're quoting Bill O'Brien. That's not my job. That's not my job. He's a poor man's Bill O'Brien, Nick Caley. God, I anticipated just laying out some history and talking about the good and the bad. I did not anticipate this becoming a Nick Caley roast. Need to get the hell out of here. Get ready for practice. We got practice in 12 hours.
We in here talking about practice.
Damn right we are. It's going to be a fun one too. Let's get to the sleeper pick. This is what I'm going with in sleeper. Shout out to Sleeper for everything they do. Download that app. $20 free, no deposit. Use that promo code LOCKER, and you can get 100% up to $100. So here's what I'm doing. The Nick Chubb rushing has gone low. It was too high for a while. Now it's 15.5. He is still RB2. So I'm going to take higher than 15.5 rushing yards. When it was in the 40s, I was always going lower. But 15.5, I'll take the higher on that. Nico Collins touchdown. He owns the Colts. CJ and him, they've got chemistry. But Nico Collins owns the Colts. He is an absolute Colts killer. So we're going to take higher than 0.5 touchdowns for that. And then Tyler Warren, we've talked about the vulnerability of the Texans defense in the middle. I think there's going to be a lot of attention paid to Jonathan Taylor. I think it's going to be a eye game, as DeMeco talks about. I like Tyler Warren higher than the 51.5. So that's 7-1 odds right there. So you take that $20 for free with the sleeper app, maybe sprinkle something else in. You put $5 on the DFS. And if this hits, not if, when this hits, You got 35 in the account. Makes every game more fun. Even if you don't want to play the game, the DFS, it is the best scoring app. And I'll put that on everything. And I do mean everything. It is the best scoring app. The one with 4 letters has fallen off. I think most of you noticed that. This is the best scoring app in the game. It's not even close. Timothy says you bash Kaylee a lot, but it's well-deserved. Yeah, DeMeco did too this week. So we got something in common. Shout out to him. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. I'm happy it's Thanksgiving. I'm happy it's Colts week. Happy I get to eat some Thanksgiving feast. But man, Nick Caley is a frustrating guy to cover. It is what it is. We'll talk to him, I think, tomorrow or Friday. Either way, we'll get to the bottom of this Woody Mark situation. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, ride along, play Sleeper, get Texans turf, get that TDECU Texans debit card. And always remember, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.
We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck.